Hello everyone. Thank you for your interest in our presentation. We are happy to be part of the 15th Annual Conference of Arts and Society and sorry not to be able to give this presentation face to face. Still, we hope you will find this presentation useful, and if you have any questions, we would be happy to answer them. My name is Ayeshah, Emon, and I'm a lecturer and teaching fellow at Trinity College, Dublin, at the School of Social Work and Social Policy. I am a cultural anthropologist and also a performance artist who has been involved in street theatre and other forms of activist theatre such as theatre of the oppressed since my youth in Pakistan and in the US. I have also taught theatre for social and cultural awareness at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and have served as the director of Yoni Baat in Madison from 2008 until 2013. I am now directing this project in Dublin. Yoni Baat is a grassroots-based feminist theatre performance that I will be talking about during the course of this presentation and on which Dr. Garlough and I have collaborated in this study and in previous studies, and our decision to co-author this paper reflects our commitment to combining folklore, critical theory, and feminist performance. Dr. Christine Garlough is a gender and women's studies professor and folklorist at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She began her early research in Gujarat, India in 1995 and continues to work there today. In India, Dr. Garlough conducts fieldwork with grassroots feminist organizations that seek to improve the lives of marginalized women in their local communities. Her research focuses particularly upon the ways traditional women's folklore is often critically appropriated by feminist activists and featured in political street plays, protest songs, and poster art to address issues such as domestic abuse, sexual violence, and female infanticide. Recently, she has been exploring the development of LGBTQ politics in Gujarat. Dr. Garlough also conducts research in the United States with South Asian American feminist groups who use theater and folk performance to engender acknowledgement and spur deliberation about social and political exigencies facing immigrant communities. In this presentation, we discuss Yoni Ki Baat, which in Hindi means conversations of the vagina. Yoni Ki Baat originated in San Francisco, California, USA in 2003 and is now being produced in Dublin, Ireland. Conceived as a response to Eve Ensler's The Vagina monologues, productions of Yoni Ki Baat include an ethnically diverse cast and address challenging topics from domestic violence and rape to demeaning representations of gender in mass media, as well as the promotion of sex-positive attitudes. These performances empower participants, mainly women and transgender individuals experiencing social exclusion, to write and perform original autobiographical monologues expressed through spoken word, music, and dance. While exploring post-colonial narratives of intersectionality and social justice, performers strategically appropriate folk narratives, figures, and forms to produce culturally meaningful commentary about pressing social issues. In our upcoming paper, which we will share with you at a later date, as it's still a work in progress right now, we argue that this ethnically diverse performance context offers a unique site for grassroots political activism grounded in a complex ethics of care. We ask how might this public form of theatre be used strategically by social activists to 1. Encourage a complicated sense of diasporic identities, and 2. Acknowledge and show compassion for real individuals facing social oppression due to their marginalized positions. So basically, this is how I will proceed in the presentation. I'm going to start by contextualizing Yoni Ki Baat within a broader literature of the ethics of care, and then talk a little bit about the historical roots of Yoni Ki Baat, locate Yoni Ki Baat within a feminist ethics of care, and leave you with a trailer and preview of our upcoming Yoni Ki Baat production to be staged in Dublin in 2021. We wanted to stage it this year, but because of COVID-19, things have been delayed because of maintaining physical distancing. A theater is a public space, so hopefully we will stage Yoni Ki Baat next year. Feminist ethics of care has played an important role in the development of theory and method in the fields of gender and women's studies, communications, and political science for several decades. Scholars draw from a range of philosophers, from Hegel, Heidegger, Arendt, Levinas, and Foucault, to make differing set of claims about how we might understand the concept of care, its function, scope, practical manifestations, and political purposes in public spheres. Building upon the work of feminist performance studies scholars like Jill Dolan, Sue Ellen Case, researchers interested in theater activism, care, acknowledgement, and affective practice, like ourselves, Emon and Garlough, Rabin, Shaughnessy, and Thompson have drawn attention to the ways that an ethics of care argument might guide not only the ways that performances are envisioned, created, and enacted, but also how scholars might study these artistic expressions, be that on the stage or in everyday expressive culture. Ethics of care as a scholarly field was developed primarily by feminist scholars in the second half of the 20th century, growing from the work of Carol Gilligan, 1982. This work concerns both the nature of morality and normative ethical theory. It advocates a relational and context-bound approach. A relational ontology characterizes an ethics of care approach in that caring involves taking the concerns and needs of others as the basis for action. Care is a practice. This contrasts with ethical theories that rely on abstract principles to highlight moral actions, such as Kantian deontology, utilitarianism, and justice theory. Care theories often critique the individualistic nature of liberalism. They offer a radical foundation to reconsider the connectedness between human nature, needs, and political judgments. They contribute to ensuring more democratic policies in which power is more evenly distributed. Ethics of care scholarship focuses upon experience. The experience of being cared for, the experience of caring for others, the concrete needs of particular individuals are the starting point. Care theories emphasize the importance of solidarity, community, and relationships rather than universal standards and impartiality. An attempt to produce principles not of rights and fairness, but of responsibilities and relationships is what underlies care theories. Consequently, the work of ethics of care scholars has offered new ways of understanding politics, citizenship, and democracy. Scholars argue that a focus on care engages people in processes of presence and self-reflexivity that have the potential to provide a recognition of interdependence. The ethics of care entails a basic value that proper care for others is a good, and that humans in society should strive to enhance the quality of care in their world so that we may live in it as well as possible. Rather than seeing people as rational actors pursuing their own goals, maximizing their own interests, we must instead see people as constantly enmeshed in relationships of care. So there are two questions then related to presence. The first has to do with being where you are. How can we be available and open to all aspects of another's experience? How can we be open to our own experience, and what is our capacity to respond from this experience? The second question deals with the complexities of time. How is the past with us in the present, in significant and material ways? Early care theorists such as Gilligan, Held, Noddings, Ruddick connected women's morality to mothering, caring, and nurturing activities and experiences. But in recent years, this work has been critiqued for being biologically essentialist. Consequently, more research is now being conducted to understand LGBTQ+ concerns and critiques of traditional gender norms. In addition, scholars are beginning to focus upon intersectionality as a key concern for understanding the benefits and limitations of care. This provides a shift away from a simplified binary of power versus powerlessness and redirects attention to the complexities surrounding subjectivity and agency. More work needs to be done that explores the ways that politics of care motivates and resonates within activist performances. Toronto argues that a caring politics consists of liberal democracy infused with a more caring citizenry. She says, care is only viable as a political ideal in the context of liberal, pluralistic, democratic institutions because care presupposes a politics in which there is at the center a public discussion of needs and an honest appraisal of the intersection of needs and interests. Sevenhuisen contends that the relationship between rights, obligations, and responsibility cannot be theorized in an adequate manner without taking into account in the fullest possible manner care. From the perspective of the ethics of care, the question of how people can reconcile caring for themselves, caring for others, and caring for the world is important for human society. The feminist ethics of care, then, takes the idea of self in relationship as a point of entry for thinking about responsibility and obligation. So how can we understand care as creating contexts for activist theater? Since the early 1980s, there's been a development of South Asian American organizations in the U.S. to represent the diasporic and transnational interests of those who've been marginalized. One such organization is South Asian Sisters, which originated as a grassroots feminist collective in the San Francisco Bay Area. Alongside its work on promoting women and LGBTQ+ rights, it also hosts the annual production of Yoni Ki Baat. Yoni Ki Baat was first conceptualized by South Asian Sisters in 2003 as a response to Eve Ensler's feminist classic, The Vagina Monologues. The performances of Yoni Ki Baat draw upon South Asian folk narratives and practices. Like the Vagina Monologues, they comprise autobiographical testimony and fictional storytelling to reimagine struggles with gender identity, sexual experiences, and cultural values and practices, presenting private experience in a public venue. If you're familiar with the Vagina Monologues, you would know that they revolve around first-person narratives in which women reflect upon and re-envision their relationship to their vaginas. It's been performed in theaters around the world and translated into 45 languages. Yet, despite being revolutionary and transgressive in many ways, the Vagina Monologues have been critiqued by some feminist scholars for not paying enough attention to diversity and difference. For example, Cooper finds the monologic form of the narratives problematic in both form and content, in that, quote unquote, they reduce their speakers to versions of the same, whatever the patina of diversity adorning their surface. So, in other words, she's saying that the monologues remain the same, but they don't take into account the diverse experience and identities of the performers themselves. Cheng 2004 and Hall 2005 similarly observe that the Vagina Monologues either exclude or superficially treat alternative forms and representations of race and ethnicity, disability, sexuality, gender identity, and so on, or use these representations for their commercial value. And Bell and Reverby 2005 further note that the raising of feminist consciousness therefore ends when the curtain closes, rather than being a prelude to opening a deeper discussion. Now, my own thinking, because I have also performed in, as well as directed and produced the Vagina Monologues, I think that Ensler's decision to not include first-person narratives of women in the Global South in the original script of the Vagina Monologues is actually a political statement from her calling attention to the marginalization of these women, whereby their voices have been silenced. However, I think that her exclusion of the voices of women of color and minorities from the vagina monologues also denies them the very agency that she claims to be fighting for on their behalf, thus reducing them to homogenized caricatures in which their identities are defined by the violence inflicted on their bodies. In addition, the exclusion of these women's voices also reifies old colonial and ethnocentric tropes of women's passivity and helplessness, giving rise to rescue narratives that assert how, to quote from Gayatri Spivak, quote, brown women must be saved from brown men by their white colonizers. Yoni Ki Baat then emerged as a response to such critiques, and as Garlough 2013 notes, it's a particular emphasis upon a diversity of experiences with sexuality, gender identities, and sexual violence. Women are encouraged to write and perform their own stories. The idea is to capture the authenticity of each woman's unique experience, and this is made all the more meaningful to audience members through the strategic use of folk or popular culture. Yoni Ki Baat performances have evolved beyond South Asian American narratives to incorporate women and trans individuals from a multitude of cultural contexts. Yoni Ki Baat performances are as much a political intervention and attempt at community engagement as they are folk narratives which entertain. So I'm not only a performance artist, but also an academic. And as I perform, I'm also engaging with queer and feminist theories, with intersectionality theories, post-colonial theories, performance studies, and ethics of care narratives in quite literally an embodied manner. Yoni Ki Baat performances, therefore, have an explicit pedagogical orientation, evidenced by opportunities such as the talkback sessions following the performances that invite audiences into a critical conversation about politics and oppression, about love and hope, as Jill Dolan would observe. And as Garlough 2013 observes, Yoni Ki Baat performances often move beyond claims for recognition typically found in human rights discourse. Rather, the focus is upon a sense of acknowledgement grounded in an ethics of care that is characterized by attentiveness, compassion, responsibility, and responsiveness. Yoni Ki Baat performances call to attention social disacknowledgement and community belonging, and as you will see in the trailer that follows, the narratives become hermeneutical and rhetorical devices that provide audiences a means to explore issues related to sexuality, gender violence, identity politics, and so on in a particular cultural context. Since Yoni Ki Baat is now being staged in Ireland with cast members from the local Dublin community, the narratives that are being written are the result of the interaction between Ireland's historical, cultural, social, and political context and the intersectionality of the cast members. Yet there are also concerns from a diasporic perspective that complicate understandings of Irishness. So Yoni Ki Baat performances invoke an ethics of care for their audiences by having counselors present during the show. MCs issue trigger warnings before performances that potentially evoke personal trauma, for example, sexual violence. So at every step, from writing the monologues to presenting them, the actors and directors consider their imagined future audiences, reactions of past audiences, and how sensitive issues can be addressed, and how can social boundaries also be pushed when necessary without alienating audiences. Yoni Ki Baat cast members develop bonds of friendship with each other as well, looking out for each other's needs and offering each other care and support that extends beyond the performance context. So, for example, during the recent COVID-19 crisis, we've been holding Zoom meetings, connecting via WhatsApp and phone calls to each other, as well as offering material and moral support to cast members who became ill or who could not travel. Yoni Ki Baat has now been performed in many US states for over a decade. including San Francisco, Chicago, Wisconsin, New York, Washington, and California, for hundreds of audience members from all cultural backgrounds. We're planning to make our debut in Dublin in 2021 since our production has been delayed because of COVID-19. I'll be sharing more about my life in Ireland and the experience of producing Yoni ki Baat in an Irish context in an upcoming paper with Professor Christine Garlough. For now, I will leave you with a sneak peek of our Dublin trailer, which I hope will give some insight into our approach. Unfortunately, the video only captures 7 of our 12 diverse cast members, as not everyone could make it because of logistical reasons, which were further complicated by a Dublin thunderstorm and an election, and the fact that we had only one weekend to shoot and edit the trailer before submission to a competition. So if you're interested in being on our mailing list for updates and about our performance, you can contact us on the email address provided here on the slide. Thank you very much for your time.